something happened to me about an hour ago, quite just bizarre. I was about halfway on my journey back to Brighton, and as always I pull over and refuel about halfway, around about Luton area. And I had the fuel hose in the back of the car, and somebody tore into the filling cord. You're like a bloody lunatic, like it was Batman or something. And he shot up behind me. I carried on filling. I'm thinking, what an idiot. Then I could see it. I expected it to be some, I don't know, maybe a drug dealer, keen to go and do what he's got to do. But it was some silly man in his 60s in a baseball cap, and he kind of crawled out of this car. And I'm thinking, what's going on here? And he said to me, how would you fancy trading that heap in for one of these? And he'd got, one of the modern sort of two-door sort of Jaguars, modern nice car. But I just politely said to him, well, it's not for me. It's not for me, my friend. And he sort of looked at me like I was completely mad. Well, what do you mean? I said, it's not for me. I prefer the tradition. And he just sort of went off on this mad rant. You can't be serious. 10,000 horsepower, 0 to 60, this and that, and all this guff. And I had to say it a third time. Look, it might well be so, my friend, and I'm not saying it's not a good car, but it's just not for me. And I just carried on putting my fuel in, and I could see he sort of picked up the fuel pump and started doing a bit in his, and then he sort of, I went to pay, and then I saw him sort of come running across the forecourt, running like he was slipping about, and what is this man doing? And I really couldn't understand it. And anyway, I just ignored him and paid my fuel and tried to drive away, and he jumped into his car and followed me, thinking, what the hell? And so obviously we pulled out to the motorway service station. I just drove up the slip road as normal, and this guy, he held back, and I could see him in my rear view mirror. He sort of held back, and then absolutely almighty let rip with this ridiculous car, and as fast as he could go, obviously he came bellowing up and raging past me about 130 miles an hour. And it was just the silliest thing. He was obviously, I realised why he was running around in the forecourt. He obviously shortchanged himself. He maybe put £5 worth of petrol in, rushing to put the pump down to run in and pay for it and follow me out, and then show me how he was going to unleash this thing. And I just sort of laughing to myself, and I'm thinking, somebody is probably married to this reptile. How do you get through life behaving like that? It just absolutely staggered me, and I'm still laughing about it now, and this happened about an hour ago. But hey, just funny. It did happen to me before, about 2 years ago. Not quite so serious. I was in my previous rusty old Jag, and it was a rusty old heap. And somebody said to me, "Would you fancy one of these instead?" And it was a same car actually, one of the modern two doors. I just said, "Well, it's not really for me. I prefer the old beaters." And he sort of took it as it was. I think he believed me. But this mad sod reptile, he just could not understand. I think he thought I was lying to him, that I really would rather have my old heap than his 10,000 horsepower 0 to 60 job. But it takes all sorts, I suppose, but it did amuse me.